All right, match number 4 with Dimir Teachings. We've faced 3 different decks so far, but we are hoping to face a deck that is not playing the card Counterspell, because our first 3 opponents have been, and we would like some variation. All right, this hand is pretty bad against some decks, but it's pretty great against others, so I'm going to keep. 1 more land means I get the Pristine Talisman. I have 2 kill spells. Even against mono black, this hand is fine, I think, because the Evankar's Justice should be good. Alright, take off this stuff on their upkeep. Urza's mine. Oh boy. Well, counterspells would be welcome here to stop them from assembling Tron. Because once Tron is assembled, it doesn't really matter how many kill spells you have, since they can kill you with Rolling Thunder. Accumulated Knowledge. Play that right now. Try to hit a land drop. Get to pass the turn. And if we can find a counterspell and a second source of blue mana before they can assemble Tron, then we have a decent shot, but if they assemble Tron first, they're probably going to get to run over us. We have a Doomblade and a Chainer's Edict, which can take out 2 of Vanguard Marauder and Ulamog's Crusher. Swiftwater Cliffs means this is very possibly Izzetron instead of Rugtron or Timbertron. It could also be Marasatron, so we will see. They have a Condescend. Probably not Timbertron. This could still be the new version of Marasatron, which plays Pulse of Marasa and Muldrifter, and a bunch of random 1 and 2 mana removal spells. Or it could be the more popular, more widely known Izzetron, which still plays 2 Rolling Thunder and Expedition maps. They Compulsive Research. It would have been great to resolve our Talisman, because gaining 1 life a turn can buy us a little bit of time before Rolling Thunder is lethal. Opponent discards Expedition map and Arc Lightning. So they're on the lookout for lands, as are we. And they have Tron, which is probably why they discarded the map. I'm going to go ahead and kill this just to make the Chainer's Edict better in the future. Accumulated Knowledge, cast this main phase again, dig for lands. This time I draw 2. Okay. Exclude could potentially be a good card, if we can get it ready before Muldrifter comes down. But it looks like that will not be the case. They have a Muldrifter. Haunted Fengraf can get back the Muldrifter if we kill it. So yeah, our opponent is now ahead on cards, miles ahead on mana, and is in a pretty good position going forward. So we need to have this resolve where we exclude this Muldrifter and just draw running counter magic for a long time and shut off all of our opponent's creatures, and also have enough counter magic remaining to be able to counter Rolling Thunders, and just keep on removing all of our opponent's threats and stopping them from hurting us until such a time as we can deck them. The good news is that they're drawing through their deck quickly. It's good and bad news. It's good news because if we stick an early Curse of the Bloody Heart or Bloody Tomb, then we might be able to deck them a little bit faster. Flame Slash and Repeal go away, which makes sense. I'll pass a turn so I don't have to discard a hand size when I cast this Knowledge. Seagate is annoying, so I'm going to see if I can find a counterspell for that. It makes my Chainer's Edict worse. And I do find one. But they have a Muldrifter anyway. Go back up to 7 cards in hand. Now have 17 mana. About to be 20 mana after they crack the map. Yeah, this is not fun. Probably not going to need the 3rd teachings. Take this opportunity to teaching, see if it gets hit by a Condescend. I imagine it will. Our opponent did not crack their map yet on their last turn, which is interesting. So Capsize or Counterspells are my choices here. Capsize can't really take them off of anything for any significant length of time though, so I'm going to go get a Counterspell. And they have a Capsize of their own, which is not excellent for us. And now if they get to Condescend back here, then it's... Alright, they can't. That's good for us, at least. They go get another tower for even more mana. We're getting dangerously close to dead to Rolling Thunder. Repeal their own Prophetic Prism to draw some more. They have a Crusher. Recast Prism. Well, I suppose we got our wish. We're facing down a deck that does not have Counterspell in it, but they do have Counter Magic with the Condescends. Evankar's Justice. I don't need both of them, so I'll use one of these to kill a Muldrifter. Tragic Slip to take down a Crusher. And a Chainer's for another one. And hope our opponent doesn't find a Rolling Thunder yet. They're at 6, 15, 19 mana right now, which means they can Rolling Thunder for 13 at the moment. So with 2 Mysticals in the yard and 1 in our hand, if our opponent just passed his turn and did absolutely nothing, we're at the point where we could actually win the game potentially off of our counter magic and finding our curse. Looks like our opponent's going to Rolling Thunder us here down to almost dead, but not quite dead. Now an Arc Lightning could take us out, a Lightning Bolt, another Rolling Thunder, obviously. We will pass the turn and see which of those our opponent tries to kill us with. And hopefully we can Mystical Teachings for a counterspell, and that will work. They keep cycling through their deck. They get to return a Muldrifter. My Evankar's Justice is a lot worse now that I'm at 3. I also have only one of my Pristine Talismans left to find for that kind of life gain. If I counter this, I'm just dead to a Rolling Thunder or a Arc Lightning or a Lightning Bolt, though I don't think they play Lightning Bolt. However, if I just let them keep drawing cards, it's bad too. I think I'm going to have to let this resolve. I got to count on my opponent decking themselves before they draw enough relevant threats. So I'm going to flashback a Teachings, go find another counterspell, and hope our opponent doesn't have an instant speed way to deal 3 damage to us. I could also accumulated knowledge here to draw 4 cards. 4 cards is fairly likely to draw us a Prohibit, which can hit Arc Lightning but not Rolling Thunder, or one of our other counter spells, and we'll still be pretty far behind our opponent in terms of who's going to deck themselves first. So I think I'm going to go with the greedier play here and try to draw more cards. Try to find a counter spell and like a curse or a... Alright, so there's a counter spell, and I got a capsize. So let's start with this. I suppose if I don't curse yet, then I can teachings for a counter spell and have the mana up to play 2 counter spells. So do I need 2 counter spells this turn, or do I need to get curse down earlier? I'm pretty sure the answer is to get curse down earlier. Since this is sort of like a counter spell, every time I mill, that's 1 less card they can find before they die. I also suppose I need to worry about taking damage, so I actually need a Chainer's Edict this Mulldrifter away as well. And our opponent's going to condescend this? Yuck. Oh, they're going to repeal it. So I'm going to let this resolve. I'm okay with our opponent drawing a card off repeal and then drawing another 2 cards off of their Mulldrifter, because that decks them faster. They flip over a Mnemonic Wall. Glad that's gone. If I could exclude and have a counterspell up, I probably would, but I can't, so I won't. Another Mulldrifter, okay. If our opponent doesn't have 2 ways to kill us this turn, then we're going to get to have a counterspell and a Mystical Teachings for another counterspell up at all times. Our opponent has 9 cards in hand, though, so it's likely they can do something? I guess not. Alright, I'll cycle this Sandbar, I suppose. And also, I'm not going to get a chance to capsize and buyback, so I'm just going to do this to a Mulldrifter so I'm not dead on board next turn. Innocent Blood that I just drew will take care of the other one, hopefully. Opponent discards lands. Yep. Alright, Innocent Blood away the Mulldrifter. And see what our opponent can do to us. We hit Expedition Maps. Obviously that's not good for us. Would have rather hit something more important. Seagate Oracle. So if I exclude, I can only have 1 more counter spell available. However, if I just let the Seagate resolve, then I'm priced into getting rid of it at some point, since I'm on a 3-turn clock, and I don't want to have to pay 7 to kill it with a flashback Chainer's Edict. I suppose I can always spend a Mind Games tapping it down. Yeah, I don't think I can afford to counter this, unfortunately. The one thing I have going for me is I don't think our opponent can burn us at instant speed. So on their end step, I can Mystical Teachings all I want and tap out, I believe. Alright, there's a Mulldrifter. Opponent's down to 7 cards in library. Is 2 counterspells enough? Crusher. Alright, at this point I think I have to exclude, because I can't deal with all these creatures at once. I suppose I could always draw Compulsive Research to speed up our clock a little bit, but I can't tutor for it. Alright, our opponent has lethal on board. We can Devour Flesh them, or we can Mystical Teachings. And I think I need to Devour Flesh and save the Mystical, so I'll do that. We draw a Deprive. So I'm going to put a stop on my opponent's begin combat and plan on tapping down this Mulldrifter. Buy myself some time. Flip over Condescends. I guess that's a fine thing to flip over. I'm not going to buy this back. I want to save all my mana for Counterspell, Deprive, Mystical Teachings. I can take one hit from that Muldrifter next turn. If they play any other creatures, we have to deal with them, though. If they play any burn, we obviously have to deal with that. What are they repealing? Their Prophetic Prism to draw more? Yep, that's fine with me. Okay. Now they are dead on board to the curse if they don't do something. Because the curse is going to mill them for 2 and then they're going to draw dead. So they have to make their move now. There's the Rolling Thunder. So we will start with Counterspell. Or so I could start with Deprive as well. Yeah, I want to lead with Deprive so that I can pick up my Radiant Fountain, I believe. I still have open Counterspell and Mystical Teachings, even if they make me wait till I end step to do something else. Okay, and we win. Excellent. So we were able to deal with all their threats because our opponent had a somewhat slow start. And their Rolling Thunder for 17 did not put us under enough pressure because we had enough creature removal for their creatures. All right, on to sideboarding. All right, so against them, I'm going to bring in Unmake as a way to kill with their big creatures. Negates to deal with Rolling Thunders. I could potentially bring in Gurmag, Angler, and Muldrifters of my own. Our opponent doesn't have that much removal, so it could be a good idea. Duress could also be good for their particular version since they play Condescend. Dispel could also be good. I don't actually like Evankar's Justice since it only kills Muldrifter. I don't really want that to be our win condition. Neither Disfigure, nor Tragic Slip, nor Agony Warp, nor Echoing Decay match up well against their huge things. I don't really want to be on tapping down at Ulamog's Crusher duty, so I think I'm going to put a Mind Games out. Crypt Incursion could be good in response to a Rolling Thunder, to make them think they have lethal and make them waste a Rolling Thunder on a non-lethal one, but they don't play that many creatures. So I think it's less good here than it usually is. And a Prohibit, I suppose, since most of their stuff costs more. And we'll submit this. Alright, this hand is fine. We can Chainers an early Seagate Oracle, evoke a Muldrifter, kill one other thing, and then try to play an Angler. I'd love to have counter magic, but I think I'm going to keep this. Turn 1 Expedition Map means they're probably going to have Tron online. Alright, so they find their second Tron piece. And am I going to evoke this Muldrifter? I think I have to. I think I need to find counter magic before our opponent starts going nuts. Hopefully they just tap out for an Ulamog's Crusher here before they play Edict's Protection for it. Alright, they do nothing. That's certainly interesting. I could play an Angler. No, I couldn't. So I will pass. Even if I could, I probably wouldn't because of Condescend. I would like it to resolve. Wilds is nice with the Angler in hand. I would love to have a counterspell right now. But unfortunately, we've just drawn lands and removal. Lands are obviously good, removal is not. Compulsive. Discards a mountain. Go find another swamp, make this Unmake easier to cast. If our opponent doesn't have creatures, it stands to reason that they probably have a counterspell or a Rolling Thunder. I could leave open Devour Flesh I think this turn is just going to be my turn to go for it with Gurmag Angler. Make our opponent go ahead and use their spell. They're not going to wait forever with regards to seeing if we have a counterspell or not. So I don't want to put a land in my hand right now. Alright, they're going to repeal our Gurmag Angler, which is less bad than what I thought they were going to do. I thought they were going to be able to kill it or counter it. Muldrifter comes down, and they discard what to hand size? A Chainer's Edict. They discard a Chainer's Edict when they know we have an Angler in hand. They can always just flash back that Edict whenever they get 2 black mana. I think I'm just going to run back our previous play. If our opponent didn't want to counter it last time, that means they probably didn't have a counterspell, so make them use a card to deal with this. Alright, there's the Condescend. They get to scry. They go bottom and bottom, so they're probably flooded right now since they haven't been doing very much. We sideboarded out a lot of our creature removal, but we're drawing a lot of it, which is not great for us. We'd rather have our counterspells and our duresses and so on. I say duresses when we actually only have 1 duress, but we would like to draw it nonetheless. I'll go ahead and fire off one of these. They repeal it. So I'm going to take this opportunity to attempt to unmake their creature. This also means it can't come back to with the Haunted Fengraf if this resolves. Unfortunately, they have another Condescend. So they are going to get to repeal their Muldrifter, draw a card off repeal, draw 2 cards when Muldrifter comes back down, and have a grip full of cards, a Haunted Fengraf, Tron online versus our hand of 2 lands, and Chainers and a Devour, which is not great for us. Luckily, we won the first game, though, so we still have a chance to win the match if we lose here. Crusher comes down. And a Seagate Oracle. So we're going to have the Chainers Devour Flashback Chainers, if we even can. That's 10 mana, which we don't actually have enough to do. Yuck, which means Ulamog's Crusher is going to hit us, which means the game is unfortunately over. One mana short here. Our opponent gets to cycle a Prophetic Prism, play a Seagate, which means that now that Ulamog's Crusher doesn't even die to a Flashback Chainers. And they get a Compulsive. Yep, we're going to lose this game. But we still have a chance game 3. Alright. Gain a life just in case. Muldrifter, save us. Doomblade. Murder. Anything for the Crusher. Looks like our opponent's thinking about something, so they may have a counterspell. Alright, we're going to sacrifice another 2 lands and chump block here, because we can't afford to take 8. And our opponent is capsizing our Mull Drifter, so yeah, that's good game. So, on to game 3. Alright, we get to be on the play for game 3. I'm going to try to take down this deck. We have a 1-lander. We could potentially draw out of it and really get our opponent by negating their early maps and prisms and stuff, but they can resolve map turn 1 even underneath a negate. And if we don't draw land, it's just too bad for us. So I don't think this is a good keep. This one is fine. Deprive, I will put on top, I suppose. I don't want to pick up a land so early, but I do really want to counter my opponent's spells, so. They have the turn 1 map, which means that Tron is now inevitable. But they missed their second land drop, so our opponent apparently had a greedier keep than we did. We could capsize their land. That'd be really funny. I don't think it's the correct choice here, but we could do it. Alright, their second land is not another Tron piece, which is good for us. Prophetic Prism draws them toward more stuff. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the aggressive route here of denying our opponent's cards, hoping they don't hit their land drops, making them have to expedition map for a land before they know what the third land type is they want. It kind of stinks to waste, quote-unquote, a counterspell on a card that doesn't matter. But I think this is good. Another map. I don't think this is worth depriving, though. I'm going to Mystical Teachings. This draws 2 cards. Counterspells are also good. I think I'm going to go with the draw 2 cards option since I have another Mystical in hand. Pass the turn. Next turn I get to start capsizing, and I might be able to capsize my opponent out of the game, which is why I chose the plan of countering that early Prophetic Prism to try to slow them down. Seagate Oracle. Let's go ahead and Knowledge first, see what we draw. Exclude, perfect. I was probably going to deprive that regardless, but since I drew Exclude, that just uses my mana better. And now I can potentially keep the capsized dream alive? No. Alright. Eventually, though. Once our opponent gets Tron, it's a lot harder, but... Compulsive Research. No, I don't really want you to do that either. I would like to be able to Mystical this turn, but... Okay, perfect. There it is. So I can capsize now on the Urza's Tower, or I can wait till their turn. The problem with waiting till their turn is they play a Tron land, or they have a counterspell available that's pretty bad. I think I'll pass. I can also deprive plus teachings depending on what they do here, such as evoking a Mull Drifter. I think I'm going to let this resolve. The reason is, if I'm planning on locking my opponent out of the game with capsize, they're going to have to draw cards. That's just going to be a fact of life. However, they're not going to have any land, so they can have all the cards that they want, they just won't be able to do anything with them, hopefully. So we have a Mystical Teachings and 2 Knowledge in the yard. With that capsize, they have to discard 2 to hand size. Repeal. And then I'm going to capsize them again while they're tapped out so they can't condescend it. If they play a land untapped, which we know they have at least one of, then that means they could condescend if they wanted to. Alright, so pick up your island. You can just have all your permanents in your hand. That would be the best thing. They have to discard hand size again. And now I think my opponent cannot get out from under this lock, is my hope. Because they can't condescend for more than 1, and we are always going to have the 1 available. Looks like they're going to do it anyway here, just to scry 2. Make us pay 1, okay. I suppose if we bounced the Shimmering Grotto, they could eventually find actual counterspell if it's in their sideboard. But I don't think it is. I'm not sure how our opponent could get out from under this. I guess we will find out, though. Or maybe we won't. I'm kind of hoping we don't. We don't find out how they can get out from under it because they don't get out from under it. Capsize is such a great Magic card. Expedition map, okay. They go and get a mine, so we know they have a mine and a power plant and an island in hand. I don't know that that information is relevant, but we know it. They discard 2 repeals. And as an added bonus, our opponent is going to deck themselves first. So we don't actually have to do anything for the rest of the game besides this. I'm not going to cast the Gurmag Angler because I want to leave open Deprive. I'll get to cast it eventually. Just got to find a land. When your opponent's discarding Mulldrifters and Rolling Thunders, you know something good is going on. Chainers, I guess? I don't think it matters. Oh, there's the Gurmag Angler. Dispel. Oh, wow. I forgot about Dispel. That was sloppy of me to forget about it. Turn Radiant Fountain, I suppose. And now I get to resolve Gurmag Angler. And we win the match. Excellent. So because we left open Counterspell mana the whole time, we got to Counterspell their Dispel. So they would have to find another Counterspell, or another Dispel, before we found another Counterspell. And they'd also have to do that while they were underneath the thumb of a Gurmag Angler that put them on a 4-turn clock. All right, we're 3-1, and then we're on to match 5.